Hey, Reddit. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. I never thought I'd be one of those guys posting my wife cheated, what do I do? Story, but here we are. A little backstory. My 42M wife, Camila, 40F, and I have been together for over 20 years. We have twin daughters in college. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but I thought we were solid. We built a life together, a beautiful one. I worked my ass off to give us financial security, and she stayed home to raise our girls. It was an arrangement we both agreed on. Or at least, I thought we did. So, here's what happened. I just closed a multi-million-dollar business deal that I had been working on for over a year. The kind of deal that makes you want to pop champagne and yell from the rooftops. I was supposed to come home the next day, but I wrapped everything up early and thought, why not surprise my wife? I even bought her a ridiculously expensive bracelet to celebrate. I was that excited to see her. I had a few drinks with my colleagues, nothing crazy, just enough to feel warm and happy. When I pulled into my driveway, feeling like the luckiest guy in the world, I saw a gold Mercedes parked there. My first thought? Oh, Camila must have gotten a new car. Weird she didn't tell me. Then I noticed the plates. Not ours. I don't know how to describe what happened next. It's like my brain clicked into silent detective mode. I didn't barge in. I didn't scream. I just walked inside. The house was dark. Everything looked normal. But I knew. I walked upstairs, my heart pounding. I don't even remember breathing. When I reached our bedroom, I didn't even have to open the door all the way. The hallway lights spilled in just enough. And there they were. Camila, my wife of 20+ years, lying naked in our bed, curled around some dude like a freaking snake, both of them dead asleep. And here's the thing, I didn't lose it. I just stood there, staring, trying to force my brain to understand what my eyes were seeing. It's funny, when you imagine catching your spouse cheating, you think you'll yell, throw things, maybe even cry. But I just felt nothing. Like my entire body had shut down. Then, something inside me switched. I wasn't going to be the guy who begged or fought. I was going to be the guy who took control, standing there in the doorway, watching my wife of over 2 decades wrapped around a man I didn't recognize. I had 2 choices. Wake them up. Confront her. Cause a scene. Stay calm. Gather evidence. Take control. I chose option 2. My hands weren't even shaking as I pulled out my phone and started snapping pictures. Several angles. Wide shots, close-ups. I made sure to get the guy's face too, just in case. I didn't know him, but I was damn sure I'd be finding out everything about him soon. Camila shifted in her sleep, and for a second, I thought she'd wake up. But no. She was deep in her betrayal slumber. Now, here's where my brain kicked into full petty mode. I saw his clothes neatly folded on the chair by the bed. His wallet and car keys right on top. So I did what any self-respecting betrayed husband would do. I took everything. Gathered his pants, his shirt, his shoes, even his stupid designer belt. I pocketed his wallet, grabbed his keys, and turned right back around. As I left the room, I stopped at the dresser where I had planned to leave Camila's surprise gift, the bracelet. Instead, I placed the little velvet box right on top of her phone. A parting gift. Then I walked downstairs, went outside, and unlocked the gold Mercedes with his keys. His car. My revenge vehicle. Sliding into the driver's seat, I started the engine and let out a slow breath. It felt good. Powerful. Like I had just flipped the script on the entire situation. I wasn't some heartbroken husband standing in his house like an idiot. I was a man taking control of his future. I didn't know exactly where I was going yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't coming back anytime soon. As I drove through the quiet streets, the reality of what had just happened started sinking in. My wife, the woman I had built my life with, had been cheating on me in our own bed. And the worst part? She didn't even bother to cover her tracks. That meant one of 2 things. She thought I was too stupid to notice. She didn't care if I found out. Both options made my stomach turn. I had his wallet in my lap, and at a red light, I flipped it open. Eric Daniels. A corporate-looking headshot on his driver's license. Fancy leather wallet, multiple platinum cards, a gym membership, and, of course, a picture of my wife. Not just a random pic either. A selfie of her kissing his cheek. I nearly laughed. So this wasn't just some one-night mistake. This was a full-blown affair. I had a lot of options on what to do next, but first, I needed to hear it from her. I pulled into a gas station parking lot, leaned back in the stolen Mercedes, and pulled out my phone. One call. Camila picked up on the second ring, her voice groggy. Babe? It's late. Where are you? Where am I? I looked around at the empty gas station, at the wallet of the man she had just been with, and finally at the stupid little bracelet I had bought her, still sitting in my passenger seat. That's funny, Camila, I said, keeping my voice calm. I was about to ask you the same thing. The pause. Then a nervous laugh. What? I'm home, obviously. Where else would I be? Oh, she was going to lie. Bold move. Really? I said. You're at home right now? Yes, she said quickly. Too quickly. In bed, actually. You sound weird, honey. Did something happen? I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. But my voice? Smooth as ever. Yeah, Camila, I said. Something happened. But don't worry. I took care of it. And then I hung up. The second I hung up, my phone started blowing up. First a call. Then another. Then a string of frantic texts. Camila, babe? What do you mean you took care of it? Camila, why did you hang up? Camila, are you okay? Camila, Max, answer me right now. I stared at the messages, watching as she spiraled. Oh, now she was worried. I let her stew for a bit before finally answering. What do you want, Camila? I said, my voice cold. Max, you're scaring me, she said, her tone suddenly full of concern. What's going on? Why are you talking like this? I exhaled slowly. I want you to be honest with me. The pause. Of course, honey. I always am. I almost laughed. She doubled down. All right, I said, glancing at the wallet in my lap. Then tell me, who's Eric Daniels? Silence. A long, painful silence. Then the stuttering started. Who? What do you mean? Gotcha. Camila, you have 5 seconds to tell me the truth, I said. Or I promise you, this will get a lot worse. She cracked instantly. Max, listen, I can explain. I hung up. Almost immediately, she called again. Declined. Then another text. Camila, please let me explain. It's not what you think. Oh, Camila. It's exactly what I think. And now? It was my turn to have fun. I leaned back in the borrowed, Mercedes and watched my phone vibrate nonstop. Call after call. Text after text. Camila had gone from nervous to full-blown panic mode. Camila, Max, please don't do anything crazy. Camila, it was a mistake, I swear. Camila, where are you? Let's just talk. Camila, come home, please. I love you. Oh, now she loved me? Funny. Where was that love when she was rolling around naked with Eric Daniels? I let her suffer a little longer, just watching her text bubbles pop up, disappear, and pop up again. She was desperate. Then I finally answered. Camila, I said smoothly. You want to talk? Let's talk. But let's do it face to face. Yes. Yes, please. Come home, honey, we can work this out. I smirked. Oh no, sweetheart. I meant you should come to me. She hesitated. Where are you? I tapped the steering wheel, debating. Should I tell her? Or should I let her guess? Then an idea hit me. A petty, delicious idea. I'm in a car, I said. Okay, where? Your boyfriend's Mercedes. Silence. Then, a gasp. What? Her voice dropped to a whisper, like she was afraid someone would hear. What do you mean? I mean, I said, dragging it out, that I found you and Eric. I took some nice pictures. And then I took his car. Oh, and his wallet too. Turns out he has great credit. Congrats, Camila, you picked yourself a winner. A choked sound came through the phone. She was panicking hard now. Max, listen, I know this looks bad, but it's not what you think. There was the classic cheater line. Oh, I said. So you weren't naked in our bed with another man? I was, but it's... And you weren't lying to my face when I called you? Okay, yes, but let me explain. And you weren't in a full-blown relationship with this guy, given that you have a selfie with him in his wallet? Silence. Finally, she whispered, X, please. Just tell me where you are. Let's fix this. I laughed. A real, genuine laugh. She still thought there was something to fix. Oh, Camila, I said. I'm not the one who needs fixing. But don't worry, I'll be in touch. Then I hung up. And for the first time in hours, I felt good. After hanging up on Camila, I took a deep breath. I wasn't done yet. Not even close. I still had his wallet, his car, and a whole lot of pent-up energy to burn. So I did what any reasonable, betrayed husband in my situation would do. I went to his house. How did I know where Eric Daniels lived? His driver's license had his home address. I plugged it into GPS, turned up the music, and drove his own car straight to his front door. The neighborhood was exactly what I expected. Rich, quiet, pretentious. The kind of place where people water their lawns at exactly the right time of day and get furious if someone parks on the street. I pulled into his driveway like I owned the place. Lights were off inside. That meant Eric was still snoring away in my bed, completely unaware that his car was missing. I grabbed his wallet and did something incredibly satisfying. I maxed out his gas card. Filled up the tank all the way. Even bought myself a snack at the gas station earlier. Thanks, Eric. Now, for the next part. I got out, took his neatly folded clothes from the passenger seat, and walked straight up to his front door. Ring ring. No answer. I knocked. Still nothing. Perfect. I set his wallet on the welcome mat, placed his folded clothes right on top, and carefully balanced his car keys on top of that. Then I took one last thing out of my pocket, the picture of him and Camila from his wallet, and taped it to his front door. A little welcome home gift. Then I walked back to the Mercedes, took one last deep breath, and left the car right there in his driveway. Game over. By the time he wakes up and realizes what's happened, he'll have no clothes, no wallet, no car, and a whole lot of explaining to do. I started walking down the street, feeling lighter than I had in years. Revenge wasn't just satisfying, it was energizing. But I wasn't done yet, because now, it was time to prepare for the real battle, divorce. Walking away from Eric's house, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, clarity. No more doubts. No more woofs. Camila had made her choice, and now I was making mine. I pulled out my phone and checked the time. 3:47 a.m. Early enough that the city was still asleep, late enough that the chaos was about to begin. I had a few hours before Camila, or Eric, figured out what had happened. And I was going to use that time wisely. Step 1. Lawyer up. Before I even made it home, I found the best divorce attorney in the city and left a message. Hi, my name is Max. I need a divorce lawyer. Urgent case. My wife cheated, and I have evidence. Call me first thing in the morning. Step 2. Lock everything down. By the time I reached a hotel, because no way was I going back home yet, I was already on my laptop, securing everything. Bank accounts, froze the joint one so she couldn't drain it. Credit cards, locked mine before she could go on an I'm so sorry shopping spree. Home security cameras, pulled up the footage just in case I needed extra proof. Car title and assets, already making a list of everything that was mine before she could get any ideas. And then, I waited. Sure enough, by 6 a.m., my phone exploded. First, the calls. All from Camila. I didn't answer. Let her sweat. Then the text. Camila, Max, where are you? The car is gone. Camila, did you take it? Please answer. Camila, you have no idea what kind of trouble you're in. There was. The classic cheater mindset, blame the victim. Oh, but the best part? At 6:24 a.m., I got a call from an unknown number. I smirked. I let it ring out. Then another text. Unknown number, hey man, we need to talk. Oh buddy. No, we don't. By 7 a.m., she was officially losing it. Camila, Max, answer me. I'm begging you. Camila, we can fix this, please. Camila, it was just a mistake. Camila, It didn't mean anything. Camila, I love you. I almost felt bad. Almost. But then at 7:45 a.m., she sent the message that made me laugh out loud in my hotel room. Camila, why would you take his car? Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was for me? Yes. The real tragedy here, her embarrassment. Not the years of trust she shattered. Not the home she ruined. Not even the fact that she had been caught in 4K. The real problem was that I had embarrassed her. Unbelievable. Step 3. Time to go home. At 8:30 a.m., I decided it was time to return to the scene of the crime. I grabbed a coffee, checked my messages one last time, more missed calls, more texts from Camila, and headed home. Pulling into the driveway, I already knew this was going to be good. Because there she was, Camila, pacing back and forth on the porch, phone clutched in her hand. She turned the second she heard my car. And oh boy. The show was about to begin that I barely had time to put the car in park before Camila came storming down the driveway. She was barefoot, wearing one of my shirts, probably in some pathetic attempt to make me feel sentimental, and had her phone clutched in a death grip like she was about to call in a SWAT team. Her hair was a mess, her face puffy from what I assumed was a long night of panicked crying. The second I stepped out of the car, she let loose. Max, what the hell is wrong with you? She screeched, throwing her hands in the air like she was the victim here. Where have you been? Why won't you answer me? Do you have any idea how insane you're acting right now? I calmly took a sip of my coffee. Morning to you too, sweetheart. Don't sweetheart me, Max. This isn't funny. She was livid, like I had somehow betrayed her instead of the other way around. You took his car? Are you insane? Do you have any idea how that made me look? There it was. Not how much she had hurt me. Not how we were going to fix our marriage. Not how sorry she was. How it made her look. I stared at her for a long moment, letting the weight of that sink in. I wanted to laugh, to really let her know just how ridiculous she sounded, but I held back. Instead, I gave her a small, humorless smile. Embarrassing night, huh? I said, nodding toward the house. Must have been rough waking up and realizing your husband saw everything. She blanched. For the first time since I arrived, I saw real fear in her eyes. Not because she was afraid I'd hurt her. No, Camila knew I wasn't that guy, but because she realized just how screwed she was. Max, please, just let me explain, she stammered, stepping closer, reaching for my hand. I pulled back before she could touch me. There's nothing to explain, I said, my voice eerily calm. I saw what I saw. I heard you lie to my face. I took some pictures, cleaned up a little mess, and left. That's it. Pictures? She repeated, her face going pale. Oh yeah, I said, taking another sip of coffee. Great angles. The lighting was terrible. You might want to consider changing the bedroom bulbs. Her lip trembled. For a moment, I thought she might cry. Instead, she clenched her jaw and switched tactics. Oh, you're fine, she said, folding her arms. Yes, I made a mistake, but can you seriously tell me that you're innocent? You stole his car, Max. Do you realize how childish that was? What if he presses charges? That's when I lost it. I laughed. A full-bodied, genuine laugh. Press charges? For what? I wiped a tear from my eye. Oh, please, Camila. You think your little boyfriend is gonna run to the cops and say, help? The husband of the woman I was screwing stole my pants and left my car in my own driveway? I shook my head. He's probably more afraid of me than you are right now. She swallowed hard, her confidence flickering. Let her feel that. I stepped past her, heading toward the house. She spun around, following me. Wait, where are you going? Home, I said simply, stepping through the front door. She scrambled in after me, closing the door quickly, as if worried the neighbors were watching. They were. I had seen old Mrs. Langley peeking through her curtains like she was watching a daytime soap opera. I walked into the kitchen and casually poured myself a fresh cup of coffee like I hadn't just blown up our marriage overnight. Camila stood in the doorway, arms folded, shifting uncomfortably. Max, she said softly, can we just talk? Talk? I echoed. Now you want to talk? She bit her lip. I know I messed up. But I love you. I love our family. I don't want to throw that away over one mistake. I set my mug down with a loud clink and turned to her. One mistake? I said, my voice dangerously low. Camila, I found a picture of you in his wallet. How long has this been going on? She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked away. Bingo. Yeah, that's what I thought, I said, crossing my arms. Long enough that he keeps a picture of you. Long enough that you were so comfortable you fell asleep in our bed. Long enough that you didn't even bother to check if I was actually out of town. She finally met my gaze, and for the first time all morning she looked ashamed. But shame wasn't enough. Shame didn't undo the fact that I had spent decades building a life with someone who could throw it away like it was nothing. I don't want a divorce, she whispered. That's a shame, I said, tilting my head. Because I do. Her eyes widened. Max. I've already spoken to a lawyer, I interrupted. I froze our joint account. Everything we own is about to be divided. You don't have to worry, though, I won't leave you with nothing. You'll get your fair share. You just won't get me. Her breath hitched. You're serious. Dead serious. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to find an angle, a way to spin this, to manipulate me like she had done so many times before. But I wasn't the same man I was yesterday. I was done. Then she snapped. The real Camila came out. So that's it, she spat. 20 years together, and you're just going to walk away like I never meant anything to you? I smiled. Cold. Calculated. No, Camila, I said, walking past her toward the stairs. I'm walking away because you made it very clear that I never meant anything to you. She didn't follow me. She just stood there, shaking, furious, helpless. I went upstairs, grabbed a bag, and started packing. I wasn't sure where I was going next, but I knew one thing for certain. I was never sleeping in this house again. And for the first time in a long time, that thought didn't scare me at all. Packing my bag felt strangely peaceful. There was no hesitation, no second-guessing. Just a quiet, methodical process of separating my life from hers. Behind me, the house was silent. Camila hadn't followed me upstairs, which meant she was either too shocked to speak or downstairs plotting her next move. Either way, I didn't care. Clothes? Toiletries? In the bag. Important documents? Already secured. I didn't need much, just the essentials. Everything else I could replace. The only thing that gave me pause was a framed photo on the dresser. It was from 15 years ago, back when we were still young, before the kids had gone to college, before she had ruined everything. I picked it up and stared at it. Who were we back then? Two people in love, or two people too afraid to be alone? I turned the frame over, took out the picture, and left the empty frame on the dresser. A perfect metaphor for our marriage, a hollow shell with nothing left inside. As I zipped up my suitcase, I heard footsteps outside the door. A moment later, Camila appeared, looking wrecked. Her arms were folded, her eyes red-rimmed, her expression a mixture of anger, regret, and desperation. You're really leaving, she whispered. I didn't answer. Just threw my bag over my shoulder and moved past her. She grabbed my wrist. Max, please. Let's talk. I stared at her hand on me, this woman who had spent the last year, or more, in another man's arms, now acting like she couldn't bear to let me go. Let me guess, I said. Now you want to explain? She swallowed hard. I need you to understand. I yanked my arm free. I understand perfectly. You lied. You cheated. And the second you got caught, you tried to manipulate me into feeling guilty. You don't love me, Camila. You love control. And you just lost it. Her face twisted into something ugly. That's not true. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Then let me ask you this. If I hadn't caught you last night, would you have told me the truth? She froze. And that was my answer. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her silence was deafening. Yeah, I said. That's what I thought. I moved past her, heading downstairs. She followed me like a shadow, her breathing quick, her desperation growing. I didn't want this to happen, she cried. I spun around so fast she actually took a step back. You didn't want this to happen? Are you serious? She flinched. No one just accidentally ends up in another man's bed, Camila, I said. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. Over and over again. And now you don't like the consequences. She clenched her fists. It wasn't like that. I scoffed. Then what was it like? She bit her lip, searching for something, anything, that would justify what she did. But there was nothing. Because she knew I was right. I reached the front door, and then she played her last card. What about the girls? She said softly. That hit me. Not because she suddenly cared about them, but because I knew she was using them as leverage. I turned slowly. Don't dare. Her chin trembled. They love you, Max. They don't want this. Please, can we just? Don't use them to fix what you broke. She swallowed hard, her facade cracking. I'll tell them the truth, I continued. All of it. I won't sugarcoat it. I won't lie. I won't be the bad guy in a story you wrote. She gasped softly, realizing that for the first time in our marriage, she had no control. I opened the door. And then she whispered the last desperate thing she had left. I still love you. I turned my head just enough to look at her. Really look at her. And then I smiled. That's too bad. And then I walked out. Walking out that door should have felt like the hardest thing in the world. But it didn't. It felt right. Camila didn't chase me this time. She just stood there, frozen, watching her world fall apart. A world she had built on lies, betrayal, and arrogance. And now, all of it was crumbling. I got into my car, threw my bag into the passenger seat, and took one last look at the house that was no longer my home. Then I drove away. For the first time in 20 years, I had no idea where I was going. And that thought didn't scare me, it freed me. I checked into a hotel, took a long shower, and finally let myself breathe. My phone was still buzzing every few minutes, texts, calls, voicemails. I ignored them all. Then I saw the one text that actually mattered. Dad, what's going on? Mom is freaking out. My daughter. The twins were away at college, but apparently, Camila had already started spinning her version of events. I had no doubt that by now, she was playing the role of the devastated wife, the victim of a misunderstanding, the poor woman abandoned by her cruel husband. Not today, Camila. I called my daughter immediately. She picked up on the first ring. Dad. Her voice was tense, worried. Mom said you left. That you're not coming back. She's crying. What happened? I took a deep breath. I'm gonna tell you the truth, sweetheart. And it's gonna hurt. She went silent. I told her everything. The affair. The lies. The way I caught Camila in our bed with another man. How she tried to gaslight me, manipulate me, make me feel like I was the one in the wrong. I left out the pettier details. The car, the wallet, the fact that I completely wrecked Eric's night. That part wasn't important. By the time I finished, there was nothing but silence on the other end. Then, my daughter took a shaky breath. She cheated? Yeah, I said quietly. For how long? I don't know. But it wasn't a one-time thing. Another pause. Then she started crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just soft, broken tears of disbelief. Are you okay? I asked gently. She sniffled. I don't know. I never thought she would. Dad, she lied to us. To you. To all of us. I know, sweetheart. My chest ached for her. For both my daughters. I'm so sorry you have to go through this. More silence. Then a bitter laugh. She really thought she could lie her way out of this, didn't she? That made me smile just a little. Yeah. She did. She exhaled sharply. I need to call my sister. She needs to know. I nodded. Take your time. I love you both no matter what happens, okay? We love you too, Dad, she whispered. And I think we're on your side in this. That was the moment I knew I hadn't lost my family. I had only lost the person who never really valued it in the first place. That I sat in my hotel room, staring at my phone long after my daughter had hung up. The weight of everything was finally starting to settle, not just the betrayal, but the sheer scale of Camila's deception. She hadn't just cheated. She had built a life around a lie. And now, that life was unraveling faster than she could contain it. I had barely set my phone down when it rang again. A different number this time. My other daughter. She must have just gotten off the phone with her sister. I answered. Dad. Her voice was tight, controlled. But I could tell she was barely holding it together. Hey, sweetheart, I said softly. I'm sorry you're hearing about this like this. She let out a sharp breath. What the hell is wrong with her? I blinked. Excuse me? What is wrong with her? She repeated, her voice shaking with anger. She just called me, sobbing, trying to make me feel bad for her. She said you left because you were paranoid and didn't trust her enough. That you're abandoning her and making a huge mistake. But she didn't mention the cheating, did she? I closed my eyes. Of course. Camila had already started trying to rewrite the story before I could tell it myself. She's trying to control the narrative, I said. She knows she can't justify what she did, so she's twisting it into something else. Making me the bad guy. Yeah, well, it didn't work, my daughter snapped. Because when I asked her point blank if she cheated, she went dead silent. Then she started crying again and said she didn't want to get into the details. There was the final crack. The moment my daughters realized their mother wasn't just a liar, she was a coward. I'm so sorry, I told her. I wish I could protect you from this. She exhaled shakily. You did. By leaving. I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my emotions in check. I don't know what's going to happen next. But no matter what, I need you both to know, I'm still your dad. I will always be here. That will never change. We know, she whispered. We love you, Dad. I love you too. When the call ended, I felt lighter. For the first time since this nightmare started, I realized I wasn't losing my family. Camila was that I sat in my hotel room, staring at my phone long after my daughter had hung up. The weight of everything was finally starting to settle, not just the betrayal, but the sheer scale of Camila's deception. She hadn't just cheated. She had built a life around a lie. And now, that life was unraveling faster than she could contain it. I had barely set my phone down when it rang again. A different number this time. My other daughter. She must have just gotten off the phone with her sister. I answered. Dad. Her voice was tight, controlled. But I could tell she was barely holding it together. Hey, sweetheart, I said softly. I'm sorry you're hearing about this like this. She let out a sharp breath. What the hell is wrong with her? I blinked. Excuse me? What is wrong with her? She repeated, her voice shaking with anger. She just called me, sobbing, trying to make me feel bad for her. She said you left because you were paranoid and didn't trust her enough. That you're abandoning her and making a huge mistake. But she didn't mention the cheating, did she? I closed my eyes. Of course. Camila had already started trying to rewrite the story before I could tell it myself. She's trying to control the narrative, I said. She knows she can't justify what she did, so she's twisting it into something else. Making me the bad guy. Yeah, well, it didn't work, my daughter snapped. Because when I asked her point blank if she cheated, she went dead silent. Then she started crying again and said she didn't want to get into the details. There was the final crack. The moment my daughters realized their mother wasn't just a liar, she was a coward. I'm so sorry, I told her. I wish I could protect you from this. She exhaled shakily. You did. By leaving. I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my emotions in check. I don't know what's going to happen next. But no matter what, I need you both to know, I'm still your dad. I will always be here. That will never change. We know, she whispered. We love you, Dad. I love you too. When the call ended, I felt lighter. For the first time since this nightmare started, I realized I wasn't losing my family. Camila was by the time I got back to my hotel, I had 50+ missed calls and over 100 texts. I didn't even bother looking through them. I already knew the script. First, the victim act. Then the guilt trip. Then the rage. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. At 4 p.m., my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Camila. It was Eric. I smirked. Oh, this was going to be good. I answered, putting the call on speaker. Eric. What a surprise. You son of a... I cut him off. Careful. If you swear at me, I might get my lawyer involved. Wouldn't want that, would we? His breathing was ragged. He was furious. You think you're funny? Taking my car? My wallet? Leaving my clothes on my damn porch? I wasn't trying to be funny, I said, keeping my voice calm. I was being generous. I could have left them on the side of the road. Do you have any idea what you've done to Camila? He spat. I laughed. Oh, buddy, I really don't care. She's a mess, he raged. She called me crying, saying you're turning everyone against her. She turned everyone against herself, I corrected. She cheated. She lied. And now she's paying for it. If you wanted to sleep with a married woman, Eric, you should have been ready for the fallout. He hesitated. Look, man, I didn't know. Don't even try. My voice turned sharp. You knew. You knew she was married. You knew what you were doing. And now you're stuck dealing with her. Have fun with that. You think this is over? He snapped. I smiled. Oh, it's over. For me at least. You just inherited a liar, a cheater, and a woman with nothing left to lose. Good luck, Eric. I hung up before he could say another word. And then? I turned off my phone. For the first time in a long time, I felt completely free. I woke up the next morning to the quiet hum of a hotel room. No buzzing phone, no screaming wife, no pathetic apologies. Just peace. After 20 years of marriage, I never realized how much I had given up just to maintain the illusion of happiness. Camila had taken my trust, my loyalty, my love, and stomped all over it like it meant nothing. And now? She was facing the consequences. I turned my phone back on, bracing myself for whatever mess had exploded while I was asleep. Sure enough, dozens of new messages poured in. I ignored the usual ones from Camila, more sobbing, more excuses, more lies. What caught my attention was a message from an unknown number. Unknown, Max. It's your mother-in-law. We need to talk. Oh, for God's sake. Now she was getting involved. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. Camila's mom. I sighed. Might as well get this over with. Hello, I answered. Max, honey, she greeted, her voice dripping with fake warmth. Oh, sweetheart, I just heard everything. I am so sorry for what you're going through. Camila is absolutely devastated. I cut her off. So devastated she had another man in my bed? Silence. Listen, I continued. If you're calling to defend her, save your breath. She let out a forced chuckle. Now, Max, let's not be hasty. She made a mistake. We all do. But you can't just throw away 20 years of marriage over one slip-up. One slip-up. One slip-up. I gripped my phone so tight I thought it might crack. Let me ask you something, I said, keeping my voice dangerously calm. If my daughter's husband cheated on her, would you tell her to stay? Silence. Would you tell her it was just a mistake? That it wasn't worth throwing away 20 years? More silence. Then she sighed, clearly irritated that her manipulation wasn't working. Max, dear, let's be reasonable. Reasonable? I laughed. You think it's reasonable to lie? To cheat? To sneak around behind my back and betray everything we built? Camila loves you, she insisted, her tone sharpening. She's just lost. She needs your guidance. I almost choked on my coffee. She's not lost. She's a grown woman who knew exactly what she was doing. And now she's sad because she got caught. Marriage is about forgiveness, Max. Marriage is about respect, I snapped back. And Camila lost mine the second she let another man into my bed. She huffed, her frustration boiling over. You're really going through with this, then? You're going to leave her destitute? I smiled. Destitute? She'll get her share in the divorce. She just won't get me. I hung up. Enough of this nonsense that I spent the rest of the morning meeting with my lawyer, getting everything officially filed. By noon, Camila had been served. At 3 p.m., she showed up at my hotel. I didn't let her in. I didn't even speak to her face to face. I simply watched from my window as she stood outside, pacing like a trapped animal, frantically calling my phone. I let her suffer. Finally, after 15 minutes, I answered. Max. I don't want to hear it, I interrupted. Whatever excuse you came up with, whatever twisted story you've convinced yourself of, save it. Please, she whispered. Her voice was hoarse, desperate. Can we just talk? Please. I don't want to lose you. I exhaled slowly. Camila, you already lost me. The day you let another man into our home, into our bed, you threw everything away. And now you're only sorry because you got caught. She started crying, ugly, gasping sobs. The kind she probably thought would make me crack. They didn't. I love you, she whimpered. I laughed. No, Camila. You loved having me. You loved the security, the stability, the life I gave you. But you didn't love me. Because if you did, you wouldn't have betrayed me. More sobs. I let the silence drag on, watching as her perfect little world crumbled at her feet. You don't have to do this, she whispered. But I do, I said. Because if I stay, I'm telling you that what you did was forgivable. And it's not. She hiccuped between sobs, her entire body trembling. So that's it? You're done. I was done the moment I saw you in that bed. I hung up. She stood there for a long time, staring at her phone like she couldn't believe it. Then, finally, she turned and walked away. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt nothing. No sadness. No anger. No regret. Just relief. Camila didn't call again. For the first time in days, my phone stayed silent. No missed calls. No desperate texts. No sudden visits. She had finally accepted defeat. I checked in with my lawyer. The divorce was moving forward smoothly. Camila had no ground to stand on, no way to fight for more than what she was legally entitled to. And Eric? He had disappeared from her life completely. Typical. He was fine sneaking around with another man's wife, but the moment things got messy, he bailed. She had lost everything. And me? I had never felt lighter. A week passed. Then too. Camila tried a few more times to reach out, empty apologies, guilt trips, even a half-hearted attempt at blaming Eric. I ignored them all. My daughters stayed firmly on my side. They saw through her lies, her manipulations. Whatever family we had left was now just me and them. And honestly, that was enough. One afternoon, I packed up the last of my things from the house. I didn't feel anger or sadness. Just relief. Camila had spent years chipping away at my trust, my love, my dignity. And now, I was finally free. The divorce was finalized a month later. Camila got what she was legally entitled to, nothing more, nothing less. She tried to fight, to guilt me into one last chance, but I never looked back. The house was sold. I moved into a sleek new apartment across town, a fresh start, free of ghosts. My daughters visited often, and every time they did, I saw it in their eyes, pride. Pride that their father hadn't been weak, that he hadn't begged, that he had walked away with his dignity intact. One evening, I sat on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker below. My phone buzzed, a text from my daughter. Proud of you, Dad. You deserve happiness. I smiled. For the first time in 20 years, I wasn't a husband. I wasn't a man weighed down by betrayal. I was just me. And that was enough.